Hey, y'all, welcome to the GI Justin channel. I have some really interesting things to talk about with you today. So, first things first, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. It means a ton to me, and I truly appreciate that you're tuning in and staying with me as we discuss all these current events and all these topics and throw in some prepping and some gun stuff too while we're at it. So, big thing today. So, we've talked a little bit about the possibility of the next pandemic or the next big thing that we're going to see in terms of viruses and kind of the new normal for us. And there is some disturbing news coming out of Spain right now, and that is that there is a new flu that is spread from birds to mammals now, and it has a 100% fatality rate. So there is a farm in Spain that is doing some really concerning research when it comes to the spread of an avian flu, which we've seen before. The researchers believe that this bird flu was transmitted to mammals on the farm, which is concerning because between cross species infection is a huge deal because you could give it to an animal, you could get it from an animal, and that's highly troubling in my opinion. And health researchers are seriously concerned about this new influenza called H5N1, and this outbreak has resulted in the death of 50,000 animals in Europe since the fall last year. Why does that matter to us? Yep, animals are dying in Europe based on this H5N1. The reason why we should care and why this is so important. Uh, it basically marks the first known cases of mammal to mammal transmission of this virus of bird flu, and according to this new study, that doesn't do us any favors because if it can cross species from bird to animal, then it can cross from animal to human, theoretically, according to what they're saying here. So the bird flu has proven scary enough recently with the spread from birds to animals that a new study published is calling for basically, this transmission of the virus to go from animal to human being a very, very serious concern that we could be next. This outbreak signals the very real potential for the emergence of mammal to human transmission, says a lady from the University of Sydney, and it could have deadly consequences. Basically, this sort of infection can become an epidemic and a pandemic. It definitely has the potential to do that at a very rapid pace. And the fact that it has a 100% mortality rate is even that much more terrifying. That this H5N1 deal basically, as far as the World Health Organization mortality rate models, would speak to it having a greater than 50% mortality rate for humans. So basically, what that means for us, and what this lady, her name's Louise Moncala, and she is a University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine assistant professor. She says, what's concerning about this is that this is exactly the kind of scenario you would expect to see that could lead to this type of adaptation where viruses can replicate better in humans than in other animals, leading to higher mortality rates. So, the thing I think is super problematic for us when it comes to these sorts of things, and we've talked about it in previous videos, is we kind of have a lack of concern, I think, in a lot of ways at this point when it comes to infections like this H5N1 that are spreading and killing all these animals because we're just fresh off the pandemic. You have all the disagreement about vaccines, boosters, what it all means for us, what the government can and can't mandate, masks, stay at home, all these different things that everybody's kind of just over. Most places at this point don't want to go back to some sort of lockdown situation. Nobody wants to do that again. Nobody wants to do all that stuff. So what happens when, you know, these universities in Europe start sounding the alarm bells saying, hey, next pandemic, next epidemic is on its way, and it is greater than 50% fatal. How many people in America are going to go, yep, heard that one before. I'm going to go live my life and do what I was doing? Okay, so with Corona, it was transmitted human to human. What about now where you could catch this H5N1 from a bird, from a squirrel, from your own dog? Then what? because what they're saying here, the potential exists for this to be transmitted to us from animals, and it's a highly likely possibility that this can happen. So it's definitely something I think we need to keep very, very close attention to, because it's one thing where you take, some of these diseases that we can transmit to each other and take the proper precautions, but you can't convince a dog to wear a mask. I don't think you can. I mean, dogs are pretty smart. Maybe we could, but what about a squirrel? Good luck catching his little butt and putting a mask on him. And if you do catch him and put a mask on him, he's probably going to give you this H5N1. So that's no good. Can't have that happening. I think this is something to really pay attention to and to keep our discipline when it comes to being prepared for things like this. Because if it's a greater than 50% mortality rate, how quick does it take to spread to pandemic levels? When we were looking back in the end of beginning of 2021, we were seeing, there's a lot of people who have respiratory sickness, and then, hey, this is a new virus we haven't seen yet. And before you know it, everybody's in stay-at-home lockdown. It was an amazing thing to see as a helicopter pilot flying over Memphis, and there were no cars in the streets. Highways completely empty. Malls completely empty. The only place that was busy was the hospital and us in the helicopter. An amazing thing. You see FedEx with, they had probably 200 planes in Memphis all sitting there because the pilots were staying at home. And that's what this has the potential to do, except the potential lethality here is greater than 50%. In these animals, it's nearly 100%. We talked about 50,000 animals dead. That's a big deal. Animals are hardy creatures just like we are. And if this thing has the potential to do that to them, what can it do to us? It's something worth paying attention to. And I think that's where, like I said, we have to stay disciplined and paying attention to the reality of what is happening in our universe. So thank you guys so much for watching the channel. I truly appreciate it. And I hope you guys, for real, stay disciplined when it comes to stuff like this and have an awesome day.